what's up, VC? It's Steve again, and it's time for another episode of What's Spinning. I'm just going to show some of the stuff that I've been listening to lately. First off, in the background, we're listening to a band that Scott Waters turned me on to by the name of Metanoia. Try to get rid of the glare. This is Time to Die. Really killer band. Actually, this was the album that he turned me on to. Their stuff's really hard to find. He found this on eBay for like $6 or $7. Told me I had to buy it, so I grabbed it and I was completely blown away. This one's from 1995. This is just straight up old school death metal. Killer band. Highly recommend checking this one out. Time to Die came out, I think, 98, 99. And they kind of mixed it up a little bit. It's kind of a cool sound. It's straight up death metal, but they also add in some black metal vocals. So they'll go back and forth between death metal and black metal vocals, even on the same song sometimes. And it sounds really cool. It sounded kind of cheesy when I first heard him comment about that mix. But then I checked it out and I love it. And this is on, actually I think all of their albums have been on Row Records. Again, hard to find. I actually found this just randomly in a UCD store for like $4.99, and it goes for like $25 online. So I was really happy to see that one. Another one that I picked up about 6 months ago. I was real late to the table when it came to Voivod. I was familiar with their first album. I mean, it's just a thrash classic. But I didn't really hear anything that they put out after that. And then I ran across their newest album about a year ago, and I was really blown away by how good that was, too. So now anytime I run across any Voivod, I pick it up. And this was the most recent one that I found. And sorry about the sticker that's on the front. I can't get it off. I'm going to have to heat it up. But this is Caters. And this was the last album with... I can't think of it. I'm drawing a blank now. With Dennis DeMore. I want to say he was already dying when this... I don't remember if he died during the making of this or after this. But this was the last album with him on it. And actually, the band didn't put out any new material, I don't believe, until their newest album that came out about 2 years ago. It may have been 3 years ago now, but this is definitely not a sound that I was expecting. I was used to their early stuff, which was straight up thrash, and I had heard their newest album, which is more of a progressive technical metal. And this is just kind of a kind of out there hard rock. It's still good, still killer riffs. It took me a couple songs to get into it because it's just not the sound that I was expecting to hear from Voivod. But and unfortunately, I just saw the poster. I missed them. They were here 2 days ago. At a small club right down the road, and I didn't hear about it. I was at the CD store earlier today, and they had the poster in the window. And it was like $15, man. I really wish I'd have been able to go see them. They actually have a new EP that just came out a couple days ago that I'm waiting to get in the mail. But still, definitely recommend picking this one up. It's kind of hard to describe the sound. It's definitely hard rock. Definitely some metal riffing, but there's almost an alternative spin to it that's, like I said, it took me a few songs to get into it, but once I got into it, I was really feeling it. So, Caters from Voivod. Next up, I haven't shown this one, but I actually have 3 copies of it now. Dystopia from Megadeth. Megadeth is one of my favorite bands anyway. I couldn't wait for this to come out. I actually pre-ordered this like 7 months ago. You can actually see right there, I just put up my signed copy that's signed by the entire band that was part of the Pledge Music crowdfunding project. That was one of the options. You could order a signed copy by the band. And they did that like 2 months before they even went into the studio. They hadn't even announced the new drummer or guitarist yet. So we didn't even know that Adler and Kiki were going to be in the band. It was just Dave and Dave. That was it. But man, I love this album. I'm completely blown away by it. I don't get all the bad press that it's getting. The guitar work on here is amazing, as always. The drums, amazing. I was worried that we were going to get some Lamb of God drums. I'm not a huge Lamb of God fan. They have stuff I like, but as a whole, I've just never been a fan of the band. I've seen them a bunch of times too. But, and then Kiki adding his little elements to it. Lyrically, awesome album. I just can't recommend this one enough. A lot of people didn't like Super Collider, and a lot of people have complained about their last few albums. I've loved all of those albums. This one is definitely a step above those, though. The End was their last great album, and I think that this one is even a little bit above that. But highly recommend checking this one out if you haven't checked it out. You know, it's funny, you hear all the people complaining that they change their style, or they want to hear a thrashier Megadeth. They give them a thrashier Megadeth, and they complain about that. They're just no making people happy. But man, if you like Megadeth, you're gonna love this album. Next up, actually, before we go there, this is just one. I was listening to Images and Words a couple of weeks ago, and it made me think of this album. Images and Words from Dream Theater. It made me think of this album. I should say I didn't like this album when it came out, so I thought I'd give it another spin and just give it some listen to it on fresh ears. I hadn't listened to it in probably 10 years, and man, this thing is still just a piece of shit. You know, I don't cuss much, but for such an amazing band, man, they really blew it on this one. This is Falling Into Infinity. I don't know what they were thinking with this album. They just totally tanked on this one. I can't say enough about how bad this album is. It's just what it is. Let's see, next up. This is one I ran across for $1, so I grabbed it. I'm not sure if this is... I'm pretty sure this is the Greatest Hits album. But I could be wrong. This is Once Upon a Cinderella. I wasn't familiar with this album. I had never seen this one before, so I went ahead and grabbed it. And then, yeah, it's definitely a comp. But it's got pretty much all their hits on it. I was listening to this in the garage as I was working on the Oldsmobile, and just a good comp. Same thing. This album is probably one of the most listened to albums in my collection. I talked about this in my last What's Spinning. I'm a huge Sepultura fan. I'm actually going to Brazil in about 3 weeks, and my #1 goal while I'm there is to find some Brazilian copies of their albums. That's not the only thing that I'm looking for while I'm there, but I definitely want to find some Brazilian pressings. But this was the album that turned me on to the band. Again, I pulled this out because I've just kind of been on a Sepultura kick since the Cavalera brothers announced that they were going to tour later this year and play Roots from beginning to end. So this too was, I spun this like 3 times while I was working on the Oldsmobile over the last few days. Just an amazing album. If you like that late 80s, early 90s thrash, I guess that second wave thrash you could call it, it doesn't get much better than this album. Next up, this one is a band that most of you have probably never heard of. I don't show a lot of horror punk or psychobilly. This kind of falls into both. Actually, horror punk as a whole falls into that psychobilly category, although people try to classify them differently. The biggest difference usually between the horror punk and the psychobilly is the bass. Most psychobilly bands play a stand-up bass. A lot of the horror punk bands just have a regular bass player. But the themes are pretty much the same. Most horror punk bands are basically Danzig, actually, or Misfits. It's funny, this wasn't even planned. Basically, Misfits tribute bands. The Misfits started with the horror imagery and the death rock, as some people call it, or horror punk, horror rock. You know, whatever genre, they all kind of play off of that. Kind of like Doom is all goes back to Black Sabbath. You know, it's all fanboys of Black Sabbath. But this is a local band in Arizona. They're actually internationally known now. They've been around for a number of years. They've got 6 or 7 albums. This is like their 3rd one. Just really good album. If you like the Misfits, you're really going to like this. This is, They Call Us Death. Oh, there you go. Calibrace number 3. So yeah, their 3rd album. Again, just really good horror punk. Really good artwork, too. I want to say they're from Prescott, Arizona, in that area. But they have a really big following there in Phoenix, and I was lucky enough to see them a few times when I lived there. Next up, this is one I picked up in a antique mall, oddly enough. The last place I would have thought to find this, it was a little, there's a little record booth at one of the antique malls I go to, and every once in a while they have a few CDs there, but it's usually rock or prog. I showed a Yes 3 CD set that I got there last time I was there. This was there too. It was marked as a Japanese pressing, which surprised me because there was no obi. This was sealed. And you just don't see Japanese pressings without an obi on them. And then I got it home and I was looking at it. And it's actually a Korean pressing, but it was made for Korea, or for Victor Music Japan. So it's a Korean pressing made for the Japanese market. But this is Gambling with the Devil from Halloween. It's a killer album. I mean, it's Halloween. Really nice artwork. Great album. You know, my favorite Halloween is still the early stuff with Kai, but they really haven't put out a bad album. Even their newest stuff, it has been really good. This is from 2007, but definitely worth checking out if you haven't kept up on Halloween. Sorry. Next up is a little VCLT I got from Mr. Scott Waters. He really got me into Frank Marino and Mahogany Rush. I've since bought, I believe, everything that Frank's released on vinyl. This is actually the last album that he released as Frank Marino and Mahogany Rush. He's actually out there, from what I understand, still doing small tours just under his name, but he hasn't released anything but, I think there's one live album that came out in like 2004, 2005, but this is 2001's Eye of the Storm. Pretty sure it was self-released. Just a Minute Records, produced by Frank Marino. Man, this is a great album. I didn't know what to expect with him. He's got some of his stuff is very much in the vein of Hendrix. He's got some stuff that's very much hard rock. He's got some very progressive stuff. You know, he just kind of hits all of that. But the guitar on here, and the guitar on all of his stuff is just absolutely amazing. But I threw this on and just listened to as background music, and I ended up sitting back and listening to almost the whole album, just chilling out listening to it. Just a killer album. Next up, this one just came in a few days ago. I was really excited to get this, and unfortunately my excitement didn't last very long into the album. I just couldn't get into this. Scott and I had a pretty good conversation about this last night, but this is Anvil from the Canadian metal band Anvil. And again, this was a I don't remember if this was a Kickstarter or Pledge Music, but I went ahead and ordered the signed copy. It actually sucks. I used a paint pen, so you can see it's already starting to like chip away in places. And I actually prefer when bands sign the front. I'm not a big fan of bands signing the inside or signing the booklet or whatever, but again, regardless, I was really looking forward to this. I really liked their last album. This one kind of disappointed me. It starts off with Daggers and Rum, which is literally like a pirate ditty, a heavy metal pirate ditty. And it's not that I absolutely hate the song. It's still a pretty good song. It's just not what I was expecting, you know. Then track number 3 is a song called Gun Control, which makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. You can't tell if he's lips is for gun control, against gun control. The lyrics are completely nonsensical. I mean, it's the weirdest thing. And then that's followed up by Die for a Lie, which is basically an anti-religion song. Again, the lyrics make no sense whatsoever. And I find in that song and Gun Control, instead of writing the music, you know, and having a good chorus, a good verse, you know, the music follows the vocals, and it just it kind of throws off the whole song. It's really weird. Then they roll into Runaway Train, which is a pretty good song, straight up metal song. Then they roll into Zombie Apocalypse, another stupid song. Musically, it's good. The lyrics are absolutely ridiculous, though. It does finish off with a couple of good songs. One of them being Ambushed. Ambushed is by far the best song on here. Fire on the Highway is pretty good. I'm just kind of mediocre on it. Now, I mean, listen, if you've seen the documentary from a couple years ago with Anvil, Lips is not the smartest guy on earth. And when he does songs like Gun Control and Die for a Lie, it really shows, or he really comes off as being really ignorant. You know, the lyrics are just really, really bad. And, you know, those first few songs just kind of killed the album for me. Again, there is some good stuff on here, definitely worth checking out. If you're an Anvil fan, you'll like 75% of the album. It's just that other 25% that's really bad. Definitely some skippable songs on this one, which is something I don't usually do. So let's go ahead and finish it with the most recent new release that I got. And this is For All Kings from Anthrax. I love the packaging on this. It's got this outer sleeve. Then you pull it out and you've got all the band members all the way around. I'm not a fan of the new logo. I mean, they've been using this for a few years now. It's not that it's a pentagram. That doesn't bother me. It just seems like a blatant Slayer ripoff. You know, Slayer's been using their own version, their modified version of the pentagram for something like 30 years, you know. And then all of a sudden, over the last couple years, Anthrax did the same thing. But really beautiful packaging. I was actually going to order this on vinyl, and actually I have ordered it on vinyl. It's just not here yet. But I happened to be in Target for something else, and they had this on sale for $7.99. So I grabbed it. Killer album beginning to end. I love the entire album. I loved worship music too. Anthrax is just firing on all cylinders. It just sounds so good. The only downside of this, I should say, is I really miss that punkier thrash sound of Anthrax. That's one thing I loved about Anthrax is they always had that punkier side of the thrash sound, and it really set them apart from other thrash bands. And unfortunately, they've just lost that. You know, it's still a great album. It's still definitely Anthrax, but I just longed for that sound that they had on songs like Antisocial or Caught in a Mosh, or you know, the Anthrax that I really love. But there you go. That's it, VC. I don't know if I mentioned this at the beginning. The Judas Priest video, part 3 of my collection, is done. I'm doing some editing to it. That one should be up tomorrow, Monday at the latest. So keep an eye out for that. Other than that, have a good one, VC, and take care.